The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Plaza scattered shimmering patterns across the reception hall as I smoothed my navy dress. Not designer, but impeccably tailored, much like everything else I owned. "Table 27, my sister Christina sneered, gesturing to a corner near the kitchen doors. "That's where the budget guests sit." I glanced at my card. After 15 years of building a hospitality empire across Asia, I had returned home just in time for our cousin Maria's wedding, a celebration being held in one of my newest properties, though the family remained blissfully unaware. "Still working overseas?" Christina asked, adjusting her maid-of-honor gown. "Managing bookings or whatever?" "Something along those lines," I replied, eyes following the staff's seamless choreography. They didn't know I was here. I liked observing the operation in its natural state first. "Glad you could make it for the wedding," Mom sighed, her expression the familiar blend of pride and reproach. Though Christina handled all the planning herself. "I can imagine," I murmured, recalling the overpriced, under-delivered contracts she'd accepted, thanks to a sales manager who had a very interesting review coming up. "The Plaza is one of the city's finest hotels," Christina bragged. "Not that you'd know much about luxury, Elena. How's that hostile work environment of yours?" If only she knew about the 35-star properties I owned across 3 continents, or that the Grand Plaza itself was now mine. "It's going well," I said, noting minor operational flaws that would need fixing. Staff training in particular was overdue for a revamp. Mom leaned in, her eyes flicking to my modest attire. "Well, at least it's appropriate for your table," she murmured. Christina's Vera Wang gown had been featured in Modern Bride. My phone buzzed. A notification about our newest acquisition in Dubai, a $2 billion property poised to redefine Middle Eastern luxury. Yet here I was, relegated to table 27. "The Plaza doesn't usually host modest guests like you," Christina continued, watching me sip water instead of champagne. "But Maria insisted everyone be invited." The hotel manager darted past, directing staff with urgent gestures. He hadn't recognized me yet. None had. My acquisition had gone through quietly, via proxies. "Did you know they have a 2-year wait list for weddings here?" Mom boasted. Christina's connections barely squeezed us in. "Usually this isn't our price range, but the owner made an exception." "Exactly," I said, glancing at another Dubai update. Christina's grin widened. "Though nobody seems to know who owns it now. Some overseas group, Rivera Global Holdings, I think. Technically my company, the one I'd built from scratch, was the owner." "And speaking of work," Mom said, "Christina's husband knows someone hiring front desk staff." "I'm doing fine," I murmured, watching the wedding planner wrestle with a seating issue. Tomorrow, the staff would learn the guest banished to table 27 was actually their boss. The reception swirled with music when the first hint of my identity rippled through the staff. A junior manager froze mid-scroll on his tablet, staring from the screen to table 27 in disbelief. "Ms. Rivera?" he asked cautiously, hands trembling. "Elena Rivera," I said, calm as Christina's dance faltered mid-step, her eyes snapping toward the commotion. "There's a mistake," he stammered. "The ownership documents." "You're the new owner?" "I confirmed," I said, rising as the general manager approached, pale as chalk. "Though I must admit, table 27 has offered a unique perspective on our service standards." The music dulled, whispers rippling across the ballroom as realization spread. Christina's perfectly styled curls drooped as the hotel's management team swarmed around her mortified sister. "Madam," the general manager stammered, nearly in tears, "if we had known the owner would be attending." "You mean if you had treated me like a regular guest at table 27? I raised an eyebrow, calm and deliberate. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her hand, the liquid staining her designer gown, as the truth settled in. The daughter she assumed needed guidance finding front desk work actually owned not only the Grand Plaza but 30 luxury properties worldwide. "Your sister owns the hotel," Maria's new husband whispered to Christina, who had sunk into a nearby chair. "Plural," my assistant said, stepping forward with a sleek portfolio. The plaza is just the newest in Ms. Rivera's collection. Though, after tonight's observations, some management changes may be warranted. The wedding planner who had ignored my suggestions now froze, her career flashing before her eyes. The sales manager who'd overcharged my family tried desperately to vanish into the wallpaper. "But, you work in hotels," Mom stuttered. "I own them," I corrected, taking a tablet loaded with the plaza's real-time metrics, alongside data on resorts, restaurants, and luxury properties across 3 continents. Though the plaza itself could use significant improvements, based on tonight's performance. Suddenly, Christina's carefully cultivated venue connection seemed trivial as staff rushed to move me to the owner's private table, something I politely declined. "I prefer table 27, I said with a smile. "It provides excellent insight into how we treat budget guests." The general manager looked ready to faint. "The table assignments. It was a mistake." "No," I interjected smoothly. It was very enlightening, showing the overpriced package, substandard service, and the clear hierarchy of guest treatment. All of which will be addressed in tomorrow's management meeting. Mom's carefully held composure cracked as the staff deferred to the daughter she had underestimated for years. "All those years overseas were spent building Rivera Global Holdings," I continued, projecting our portfolio across the ballroom screens, currently valued at $12 billion, with properties in 14 countries. Guests gawked as images of my exclusive hotels filled the displays, each one more luxurious than the plaza, a record of what I'd achieved while they assumed I was simply working in hospitality. "The Dubai property opens next month," my assistant added. "Though after tonight, the plaza may require immediate attention." Christina's face matched the droop of her bouquet as she realized her connections had been negotiating with her sister's employees all along. "Now," I said, checking my watch, "shall we review the necessary service improvements, or should we let the bride enjoy her wedding in a hotel she didn't know her cousin owned? I have standards to enforce, and the night is far from over." The room shifted as the staff scrambled to correct their prior indifference. The manager responsible for seating me at table 27 frantically reviewed security footage, likely tallying the number of times he'd passed by the owner unnoticed. "Your hotel portfolio," Christina's husband called from across the room, investment instincts kicking in. "It includes the Singapore Lotus, the property your company attempted to acquire last month." Smiled. "Yes. And the Monaco Grand, the Dubai Crescent, acquired discreetly through shell companies. We prefer private ownership transitions." Christina's face drained of color as she realized her husband's biggest failed deals had been blocked by her budget sister. "But you never mentioned," Mom began weakly, voice trailing off, "that I had been quietly building the fastest expanding luxury hotel empire in Asia." I accepted another tablet, this one displaying our newest acquisition targets. "You were all too busy praising Christina's wedding planning skills to ask," I remarked. The wedding planner hovered nearby, suddenly aware that her biggest client was, in fact, my employee. "The service issues," I continued, bringing up the plaza's performance metrics, "require immediate attention, beginning with our policies on guest hierarchy and table assignments." The general manager nodded frantically, jotting notes. "Of course, Ms. Rivera, we had no idea." "Exactly," I said smoothly. "Every guest should be treated with the same care as the owner, not only those in designer gowns." Mom's social circle gathered near the dance floor, jaws dropping as they witnessed the daughter they dismissed reveal herself as the force behind their favorite luxury hotels. "Your sister's little hotel job," one whispered to Christina. "It's actually a global luxury hospitality empire," my assistant interjected. 3 more properties were added just this morning. "Contracts are ready for your signature, Ms. Rivera." Christina's meticulously orchestrated wedding had been upstaged by the revelation that her supposedly humble sister owned not only the venue but dozens more. "The plaza's renovation plans," I announced, projecting the designs on the ballroom screens, "will begin next week. Though perhaps we'll wait until after the wedding to address the full management overhaul." The staff who had dismissed me earlier now stood at rigid attention, watching the owner sip water calmly at table 27 while reviewing their careers on a tablet. "Now," I said, noting a delay in service, "should we discuss why the couple at table 28 has been waiting 10 minutes for their entree, or continue observing anonymously?" The night was young, and I had an entire hotel to refine. Later, in the plaza's private owner's office, my office, I stood before floor-to-ceiling windows, city lights reflecting across the room. Senior staff lingered tensely behind me, while my family hovered by the door, still absorbing the evening's revelations. "The plaza will undergo significant changes," I declared, projecting renovation plans across the wall displays. "We'll start with service standards and guest hierarchy policies." Images of my other properties filled the screens. Singapore Lotus with its floating gardens, Monaco Grand with underwater suites, Dubai Crescent rising like a golden moon above the desert. In the window reflection, I could see Christina, her maid of honor gown suddenly seeming overdone compared to the understated elegance of real luxury. Mom's social boasting about her daughter's wedding planning prowess had vanished. "Your sister's hotels," the general manager murmured to my family, "define global luxury hospitality. What you've witnessed tonight was outdated and will be corrected immediately. Though perhaps table 27 should remain as is," I added, turning to face everyone, "a reminder of how no guest should ever be treated." The staff shifted uneasily as I brought up footage from the evening service. "Sometimes the most uncomfortable lessons are the most effective," I concluded, meeting my family's astonished eyes. The girl they assumed was just working in hotels has quietly been redefining what luxury hospitality means. True achievement rarely announces itself with designer labels or social media applause. The city lights danced across the office walls. My office, my hotel, my empire. The quiet sister in the simple navy dress had just become the most powerful person in the room.